and select this one for that to be done. And now I am here with all of this.
And the buttons you showed me yesterday.
Right. All at the same time. So when a unaccountable troll comes. Yes. Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to, let's see if YouTube is cooperative this morning. Okay, great. Go ahead and take a screenshot right now. These are the graphics that we will be using today. If you're watching on the replay, same thing. What we're going to do today is we're going to be talking about neural construction zones. This came from yesterday's live, which was, the name is escaping me right now. Gray area. Got it. On your own, you're going to go ahead and inhale and exhale 3 deep cleansing breaths. You're letting the amygdalas, the nervous system know you're just getting regulated. Just calm down. We're just learning this morning. We're going to understand neural construction zones. So on your own, starting right now, inhale and exhale 3 deep breaths. Okay, I'll be back. In addition to having those 3 deep breaths, your brain, according to Dr. Bing, a neurologist that I've followed on TikTok, your brain is 75% water, so you need to hydrate. You've been asleep, and although you feel like you haven't been doing anything, your brain and your body was working, good morning, Lola, working a lot while you were asleep. So you need to hydrate, and this is a mental workout. As you take notes and learn, grow, answer questions, you are still working out your brain. You need to hydrate your brain. Okay, today's topic is neural construction zones. We found out about them yesterday when I was talking about the gray area that I am currently experiencing as I learn, this wig is on, okay, as I learn neuroscience and all that takes place. And so today, because of that information, I decided that we would now further deep dive into what a neural construction zone is. For those of you who are here for the first time, I am going to ask, do you have questions at certain points throughout today's live? At that point, if you have a question related to the topic at hand, neural construction zones, I will answer that question and those questions only. Should you decide to stay until the end, there are 2 additional questions that you will answer. What did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? Again, my topic today is neural construction zones. That is what I will be talking about. Good morning, Regina. Neural construction zones. I will not be answering any questions or entertaining any other rhetoric other than neural construction zones. If you'd like any other information besides that, I'm sure someone is live on YouTube or TikTok somewhere else that would be willing to entertain whatever it is that you'd like. But here today is neural construction zones. Okay, so what brain regions and hemispheres are used during neural construction zones? Neural construction zones refer to the brain regions undergoing active growth, rewiring, or reorganization. So if you are undergoing active growth, rewiring, or reorganization, you are in a neural construction zone. And typically this occurs during learning, i.e. now, recovery from a brain injury, or personal transformation, which is also something that's taking place for you. So again, a neural construction zone is for active growth, rewiring, and reorganization. It takes place during learning, recovery, or personal transformation. And these zones are especially prominent during childhood and adolescence. That's your developmental plasticity phase. Skill learning or behavioral change, which is now, and that's adaptive plasticity. Post-injury recovery, and that's compensatory plasticity, where you are recovering from a stroke, a brain tumor, some type of head injury. And then finally, number 4 is mental or emotional growth periods. And I am in a mental growth period. And so you will be navigating through ambiguity or building new habits. And that's what the gray area live was about yesterday. So that is your neural construction zone. And so just like the building fund at a Baptist church, that you always got to contribute to. Bad Dr. Donna. Anyway, you are always under neural construction zones because you are creating new neural pathways. So some portion of your brain should always be under construction because of the adaptive plasticity, skill learning, behavioral change, and then growth periods. Grow continually is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And as a result, you should always be growing and learning. Now, here are the key brain regions that are involved in neural construction zones. Number one is the prefrontal cortex, and it is the function in a construction zone is as follows: planning, decision making, attention shifting, and creating new strategies. And the hemisphere dominance is that in this instance is bilateral but it's more for left. In the left hemisphere is for learning logic, and in the right hemisphere it's for learning for insight. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and this is for the working memory, integrating new info, and forming adaptive responses. The hemispheric dominance is left for verbal task, right for spatial task. Next is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and this is for emotional regulation, value-based decisions, and evaluating new beliefs, and it is bilateral. And I would like to just say for myself personally, evaluating new beliefs. And I believe that I have said this, that I went to church for like 26, 27 years, and then I stopped going to church in December 2010, haven't been back. I got invited to a couple people's churches, but on a regular basis have not. I have had 1,775, 78 day do a streak on the Bible app, and I've outgrown that. So in order for me to continue to have a connection to my higher power, which is God, I have now started taking the verse of the day and using it in chat to say, how can I apply this neurologically? So my belief system has elevated past, excuse me, the current belief systems in my faith, where it just keeps talking about this low level, I'm a sinner saved by grace and mercy. We got to go help the poor. Okay, I'm past all of that. Got it. We need to be doing something. I need to be doing something else. And so in this capacity, my beliefs, I'm evaluating my old beliefs. And so I'm in a gray area with that as well. But everything is attached to the brain. So my gray area is attaching everything to the brain. What regions of the brain am I using in order to do this, which makes me bilateral in this sense that I'm going to be using my brain in order to process this fully, which goes against some people's belief because it's not, you're trying to make it too logical, and I've been accused of that. And I'm like, well, I'm a very logical person, and if I'm using my brain to read the Bible and I'm using my brain to interpret what it's saying, then why can't I use my brain to apply it to the regions that this actually applies to? And you gotta love chat, because it actually tells you what you need to be doing. And that's the fear of Christianity. Oh my God, you're going to use some technology. I am. You use technology with the Bible app to send me the message. So I'm going to use technology to apply it at a higher level. Okay, next is the anterior cingulate cortex. And this is error detection, shifting the behavior, and resolving cognitive conflict. And you're going to be bilateral with that as well. And again, as we said yesterday with the gray area, you are no longer who you were, and you're not yet who you're becoming. So there is this conflict. Oh my goodness, should I be using ChatGPT, the brain, for the Bible app? Oh no, you can't do it. Why can't you? Why can't you? Why can't you? I can, and I'm doing it. Parietal lobe, and that's for your spatial awareness, integrating sensory info into your mental modeling. And it's right dominant for spatial mapping. And just to review, spatial mapping is how you put everything in your life. So the brain's ability to operate in your environment, where you know where everything is in your house, and you know where everything is in your city. That's what's happening. And so it can impact this because everything, I even cleared out my desk, got rid of some things, moved some things around. I need to add a console table now for all the brain books that I'm getting ready to have in 12. And so it's changing what you normally see or know where it is, and now you're updating it. The hippocampus is the encoding and consolidation of new memories, and it's the scaffolding for new knowledge. And I like that because I am building new knowledge. While I was removing some of the things, I had notes from the beginning of my lives in October when I started talking about the brain, and it was so cute. Some of the things that I just was like, and one of the things was, what's the difference between neurogenesis and neuroplasticity? I thought, oh my goodness, look how far I've come in 10 months. That I literally threw away like 12 or 14 post-it notes because I actually knew that information. And that's what I told you all yesterday. Are there things that I'm learning consistently? Yes, but there are things that I know like the back of my hands. And by seeing those 12, I think it was 12, those 12 post-its, I literally was like, I know this, I know this, I know this, to the point where I didn't even need to refer to it anymore because it actually is in my hippocampus. And so I have that scaffolding. We have a lot of buildings being built around here and remodeled in Las Vegas. So we see scaffolding everywhere, and it is quite interesting to see. So just think of it from a mental perspective. Next, and those two hemispheres is that it's bilateral for the spatial as well as the verbal for the hemisphere, for the hippocampus. Next is the basal ganglia, and this is habit formation, reward learning, and refining routines. And so that is what I am doing. At one point, I was writing out all my notes out of chat, and it was too much because they just got more and more expanded. And I was using that time to write instead of learn and prepare better live. So that's a routine that I had to, and I've been using notebooks and these three things since the 90s. So part of it was letting go and saying, it's okay. Just email it to yourself, text it to yourself. It's going to be there. You don't have to. And the good news is now that you have it in your phone, if you need to refer to it when you're out, you don't have to have that physical notebook anymore. So my routines have been changed. The cerebellum, and that's bilateral as well for the basal ganglia. The next one is the cerebellum, and that's for your motor learning and fine-tuning mental tasks, and that's bilateral as well. The insula is internal awareness, that gut feeling, integration, and switching your attention. And so I'm switching from traditional ways of learning, traditional ways of presenting information, and I'm coming into 2025. And it's a right leaning into introception. And introception is the sense that allows you to perceive and understand what's happening inside your body. So it's taking that time when you're in that default mode network. Whoa, excuse me. Wow. 1 second. I think I'm back. So it's when you're in with yourself. So you're having your default mode network time and you're taking self-inventory is what we call it inside of 12-step programs. And next and finally is your default mode network. And this is your self-reflection time as well. And it's for your own mental stimulus, and it's integrating new meaning. And here's a new term, the hemispheric options that we have, or the parts of the brain hemisphere, is it is the midline and the bilateral hubs. And the midline and bilateral hubs are the central regions that integrate information across both hemispheres and are essential for high-level cognitive, emotion, and social processing. And it's located along the middle surface of the brain, playing a key role in self-awareness, emotional regulation, decision-making, and internal thought. And so, no, I don't know if you're looking now, but I was showing her how I prepare for the live. Here's how I use those Post-its. Because for you all, it seems seamless. And then I was explaining that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So when an unaccountable person shows up, it's extremely disruptive because it is busy, flight of the bumblebee, past what y'all can see. So what hemisphere does the work? Yes, you am. So here are the first 3 Post-its that you saw. Those were the ones that I was reading. Because she was saying, why do I have Post-its? But because I'm not, normally those would have, in the past, those would have been in my notes and I would have just read them or had them and said, okay, it's time for you to read the Post-its. But then I had to have a new system. So now I have to number them because of me using a notebook, Post-its, and my tablet all at the same time now. Gotta love progress, right? So what hemispheres does the work? So neural construction zones tend to activate both hemispheres because they involve logic from the left hemisphere, so that's planning, analysis, and sequencing. Also, creativity, insights, obviously coming from the right hemisphere for pattern recognition and abstract thinking. And then integration across the corpus callosum, and that's that piece of brain tissue that connects the right and left hemisphere. So connecting emotional, cognitive, and semi-motor input. So in practice, the dominance of the hemisphere depends on the task. So new language, reasoning, or discipline, it's going to be more left hemisphere dominant. And then new emotional coping, which is what I'm going through now in my gray areas, creative growth or empathy are more right hemisphere. So basically, in summary, it's this. Neuroconstruction zones are dynamic bilateral processes driven by the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the basal ganglia. And they're coordinating across both hemispheres to rewire, reframe, and renew behavior, thought, and emotional patterns. That is what's taking place. So that's the basis. That's the regions of the brain. What questions do you have about neuroconstruction zones or the regions in hemisphere dominance when you are under neuroconstruction? Before I move on to why people avoid neuroconstruction zones. That's still a little tight. Okay. All right. What regions of the brain are impacted when people avoid neuroconstruction zones? I'm glad you asked, Lola. Here's the answer for you. When people avoid neuroconstruction zones, meaning they resist learning, growth, adaptation, or change, certain brain regions become underused, dysregulated, or overly dominant. And this can reinforce rigidity, fear, and habitual thinking. That left amygdala will start ruminating. That right amygdala is like, we ain't changing. We got our comfort zone and our comfort cocoon, just like we wanted somebody trying to come and take our comfort away from us. And that's not going to bode well for us. So that's what happens. So, yep, you can go ahead and avoid this neuroconstruction if you want to, but you are literally underusing your brain. You are regulated things that should be regulated, i.e. your emotions, and the right amygdala is going to take over with the left amygdala riding shotgun. And next thing you know, you ain't changing and that thing. And you will see them damn mental construction zones and barriers and excavators and everything else, and you're going to run in the other direction. So why do people do it? Okay, the regions that are impacted from people avoiding neuroconstruction zones. It's the prefrontal cortex and impact when avoiding growth. It reduces flexibility, planning, and decision making. So basically, you're shutting down the executive function of your brain. And the hemispheres that it impacts is bilateral dysfunction. It's less integration to both sides of your hemispheres, both sides of your brain. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and it's decreased working memory and logical problem solving. So you ain't going to be able to solve and then nothing at all. You're going to be stuck at Del Taco trying to figure out what you want for lunch because you are avoiding your doggone neuroconstruction zones. And it's more left side suppression. So what you experience, and we have a new term, an analytical block. And Nola, what is an analytical block? I'm glad you asked. A mental barrier or cognitive interference that disrupts your ability to logically assess, organize, or solve your problems. So you're not going to be able to assess, organize, or solve any problems because you have decided, yeah, I'm not going to do no construction up and through my brain. I'm good. And now you're going to have an analytical block. And I know some of you have had this experience where you have a person who does not want to have any neuroconstruction zones. And so then they get a problem. And what do? They call you. And those barnacles just latch on to your prefrontal cortex to create drag for you so you can solve their problem that they willingly created and willingly are avoiding. And then you, because you're such a nice person, go ahead and solve their problem, and you deny them that opportunity to be under construction. You do that to them, and then you will enable them. And then they keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back because they're like, well, you're working on stuff. It's easier for you to solve problems. You solve problems all day long because you're under construction, and they're not under construction. So let them go find their own construction equipment and say no. Okay? Next is the anterior cingulate cortex. And what happens when you avoid the construction is you impair error detection. You reduce the willingness to change behaviors, and this is bilateral inactivity. So this is just the way I am. I'm not going to change. I was born this way, and I am not going to change. I'm not changing for nobody. Okay, cool. Then keep your problems too. You ain't changing, so it ain't changing. Don't come over here to where change is embraced as one of the 74 principles of real leadership. Carry your ass back to Loserville in your comfort zone, in your comfort cocoon. Don't change. But don't want your problem solved either. Let them sit with you in your comfort zone, worrying the shit out of you, because that's what you deserve. Hippocampus, weakened memory, updating, and you're stuck in past patterns. Yeah, do you know anybody that's been trying to do the same shit again and again and again and will not change? Same shit, different day. And again, this is less activation in both sides. Again, just letting that brain deteriorate and atrophy. The basal ganglia is up next. And so over-reliance on old habits. See, they changing stuff now. See, I like it better when it was the old way. And now they over here updating stuff. There wasn't nothing wrong with the way it was. Resistance to forming new routines. And that's why I had to clear out some things and change some things, because the last thing I want to be is that old ass senior citizen sitting in my recliner and my lazy boy watching some CBS something, waiting on the grands to come over so I can give them some peppermint and some butterscotch. No, not happening at all. So you need to always grow continually, embrace change, challenge yourself, and failure is not an option to get rid of all that nonsense. And so, yes, so old habits and you get resistant new routines. And so it's a dominant pattern of repetition. Next is the amygdala. And this is a heightened fear response, avoidance of discomfort and resistance to novelty, and in this instance, learning anything new. Often right lateralized hyperactivity. The right amygdala is like, nope, we ain't doing that. Nope, we're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. Absolutely not. Let's stay where we are. Whew. No, that's going to make us uncomfortable. We're not about to go do that. No. Next is the insula. It's diminished self-awareness and introspection. And wait, did I do my... And we talked about introspection already. Yes, so that's going within. And then the right insula is underactivated. And then finally, the default mode network, where you spend most of your time when you're by yourself. The rumination, the over-identifying with fixed self-stories. So you're just going to keep telling yourself the same shit over and 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 over over again, and just going to stay right there ruminating on it. No solution whatsoever. You're just going to stay, nah, this is good. I'm good. We good. Yeah, we ain't got to change shit. No, man, we did. Remember, we changed 15 years ago. It ain't time for us to change again. We got another 15 years on this. Overactive midline and posterior areas again. So you are in that middle region of the brain and it is becoming overactive. So the summary and the functional impact is this. Avoiding neural construction zones leads to increased limbic dominance. You don't want that, because that means that you have amygdala-driven fear and avoidance. So that's the opposite. Remember, the amygdala is designed to send an alert to the prefrontal cortex, also with the insula and the ACC. And then the prefrontal cortex says, okay, we got this. Let's see if it's a real threat. It's not. It's a false positive. Go back to sleep, amygdala. We got this. But you're going to increase that. So the warnings are going to keep coming, and the prefrontal cortex is going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. Just like, all right, fuck it. Go ahead, amygdala. Do whatever you want to do. Then you're going to have reduced executive control, which means that your prefrontal cortex modulation is not going to be there. It's not going to monitor what's happening. It's not going to regulate the amygdala. The amygdala is going to be in charge. And think of it this way. If you have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in the house, and you have parents that are over 35, and the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old like, sit down, do this. No, we ain't going nowhere. You'll be like, what the hell is going on in this household? Y'all got toddlers running the house, but that's what's happening in your brain. You get a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old telling you what to do. They can't drive, they can't pay no bills. The 3-year-old might still be in pull-ups, but they running shit. That makes absolutely no sense. It's like, what the hell is wrong with this household? What the hell is wrong with your brain? Same thing. Next is you're stuck in autopilot. So the basal ganglia has habits that are dominant and it ain't changing. Basal ganglia like, nah, we ain't doing that. No, let the toddlers run things. They good. Look at them. We having fun, and everybody got food all over the place. It's okay. It's okay if we got sticky shit all on the floor. It's good. Now we ain't gonna fall. Limited emotional growth. And so the underuse of your insula and your ACC means that you are not only going to be extremely emotional, you're not going to ever become less emotional or grow and be in touch and in tune with your feelings. And then finally is the rigid thinking patterns. And this occurs in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. So they don't update at all. Old mindset, new outfit, you updated the wrong shit. That's a Dr. Donna quote. So yeah, you can go ahead and say you're not under construction, and all you got is a bunch of toddlers running around with some damn tutus on, and everybody got to play T and all of that. And you're like, no, we got to go to work. We got to go grow. We got to go do these things. We got to change and develop. And the child's like, no, sit down. We're going to have imaginary tea party, let's play. I'm a princess. Yeah, I'm Spider-Man. We're going to be Spider-Man. And you just wake up every day doing dumb shit. Every single day, old ass archaic shit. When I was growing up, we still had black and white televisions and black and white TV shows. And you are a black and white television show. And right now they're working on hologram televisions at CES here in Las Vegas when they have it every year. So they're working on the picture coming out to you, and you over here with the dial turning. And if the knob fell off, you got a wrench with some aluminum foil and the antenna on your house still having the kid up there. Wait, turn to the left, turn to the left. That's what you're doing because of your sheer utter refusal to be under construction consistently. So the brain-based insight for this is this. When people avoid neural construction zones, they engage more fear circuitry, especially the amygdala. Is wiring and firing and wiring and firing and wiring and firing, and less prefrontal executive control. So the person that's supposed to be in charge in this scenario, the parent, ain't in charge. Or as they say, the inmates are running the doggone prison, leading to stagnation, emotional reactivity, and cognitive rigidity. So you are going to be rigid, emotional, and stupid because you don't want to be under neural construction. Okay. Any questions on that before I move on to the brain-based activities so that you don't have to let toddlers run your brain? And if it's clear, say it's clear. No questions. Scary. What's scary, Regina? I tried to use a calm example of toddlers running the house. Nola says clear. Regina, if you could just clarify your scary for me before I move on. Because you got 5, I think, exclamation points of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and then let me switch the thing so y'all can see. So if you look down, damn it, it's closed. Okay. Go back to the beginning of the live when it's over. I forgot we got questions on it. I should put that at the top. Regina said, people refusing to grow. Yes, toddlers running the brain, sheer chaos. Yes, that's no bueno. Go to a 2.5-year-old room at any daycare. They biting and fighting and everything else. It's worse than Five Nights at Freddy or anything else. Ain't nothing worse than that. And then they all need to be changed or the pull-ups at the same time. Oh, Lord. No, it is bad. Okay. Scary and sneaky. Next, we have brain-based activities grounded in neuroscience to strengthen neural construction zones. So here are the brain-based activities grounded in neuroscience that strengthen neural construction zones promoting learning, growth, and rewiring through active engagements in regions like the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the ACC, the basal ganglia, and the cerebellum. Here we go. So deliberate practice and stretch. Deliberate practice. So you're going to stretch and add feedback. And the brain regions activated are the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the cerebellum, and the ACC. And the neuroscience benefit for this is that it builds adaptive wiring, error correction, and motor cognition refinement. So you are going to stretch. I stretch every single day, and you are going to solicit feedback. And feedback is the gift that keeps on giving when you get it from a person that's personally accountable. Solicit feedback is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. So quite often after live, I will ask Nola how it went, what was her thoughts, and most days she'll say it was good. Some days she'll say, here's this, and I will be using that information so that I can improve, because these lives are always under construction, because every time I study something else, here comes some new information, and that's the beauty of research. Next is spaced learning versus crammed learning. So you're going to be using the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. And what happens is it strengthens long-term encoding and consolidation. So if anybody's ever been in school, and I believe most of you have, when you take the time to study the information over time, which is one of the recommendations in the book Brain Rules, you actually learn the information. But when you wait until the night before, the morning before, and you try to get some information and you cram it all in, guess what happens? You dump it. As soon as the test is over, you don't remember shit. CRS, can't remember shit. But over time, if you keep repeating the information, then you know it. So if we could go back, we can because it's on TikTok, but we go back to October when I first started with the red and white brain question mark backgrounds, and you forward all the way to today, me having those 12 posters that I threw away yesterday, those were things that I did not learn. But because today is number 633 live, and I've been talking about the brain for 10 months now. September, October. August, September. So 10 months, coming around 10 months this week. I have all this other information that I didn't have before. I have brain t-shirts now, and I can point to them and tell you where things are. What's funny yesterday is one of the things that I was trying to determine was, where does memory resides, and how does learning play a role in the hippocampus, and all these things that I now know because I've taken my time and my due diligence every day. So I'm not cheating. I'm not grabbing somebody else's information, throwing it up, saying some stuff that somebody else already said, because I need to study the brain, master the brain, and teach others to do the same. Okay, so this is why I can talk to somebody else now and say, here's what's happening. I can look at behavior and say, here's what's taking place. At the time, I was saying if you had two hippocampuses, at no point until I studied this on my own did anybody mention the left and right amygdala. And together they're amygdalae. So nobody said how much they weigh. Everybody just kept saying it's an almond shape and that's it. And your amygdala is hijacked. But then when we started peeling this onion back, how many times the amygdala is impacting what we do on a day-to-day basis, that is space learning versus hurrying up and cramming. So that's why you want to be under construction and you want to learn, go slow to go fast. All right, reflective writing. And we know that this is my brain dump notebook when something is happening in my head, my composition notebook, so I can get it out and see what's actually taking place. And what you're going to be using is the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, the ACC, and the default mode network. And what this does is this supports self-directed change, emotional integration, and meaning making. If something, and thank you, Monica, if something is in your head, you can't see it. So you're either going to have to say it or write it down. And if you write it down, you can read it, you can come back to it and process it. And if it's actually something that you need to do something about, the prefrontal cortex will say, okay, cool. But if it's amygdala hijacking, left amygdala ruminating over something, then the prefrontal cortex is going to read it and say, oh, that shit ain't true. And if you are in mind wandering, which is the brain bit for today, you're going to look at it and go, that ain't got nothing to do with what I'm talking about. And then you can move on. Next is mindful focus training. And that's your breath work. And I've said, download a meditation app, a breath app, do yoga. You have to do that on your own. I'm not going to tell you how to do that because you know what's going to work best for you. You can follow somebody on TikTok, YouTube. 10, 15 minutes every day of breath work is going to calm down that amygdala and that limbic system, regulate the emotions so that you don't release cortisol, because if you do, you're going to get brain fog. That's the stress hormone. And now you ain't going to be able to think clearly. So focus on breathing is definitely going to change the game for you. And you're going to be using the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the insula, and the ACC. And it enhances attention regulation and reduces default mode rumination. So when you're in your default mode, your personal time, you are not going to be just thinking about dumb shit, just mind wandering instead of being where your feet are. Next is growth-oriented self-talk. And you're going to be using the left prefrontal cortex, the Broca's area, and the ACC. And what happens with this is it rewires your limiting beliefs and supports cognitive restructuring. And this is a perfect time for me to tell y'all this. Now, we know I'm saying, and right now you can't get a Nobel Prize in what I'm doing because I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not into literature. So there's only a couple categories, but it's time for them to update the categories. Now, every Monday, I go to, not every Monday, but several Mondays out the month, we go to Savers, which is better than Goodwill. And they have everything in the stores 50% off. It's extremely crowded, but they have the best books. It's where I've been going for the last couple of years to get my books. I always go to the business section and I always go to the biography section. And so there are only 2 times that I stepped out of my section. I went to the education section once when I was looking for brain books, and I got this book that I will be reading once 11 is over. But yesterday, and I hope I don't cry, and this is extremely important for me because I do believe in manifestation. I am in the business section getting books. And I know this is going to be backwards for y'all. But this book right here should have never been in the business section. It should have been in the education section. And this book is for Nobel Prize winners on medicine. Their work, their articles, their drawings, their graphics, everything. Because I was like, I don't even know how you go about being a Nobel Prize winner. And winner, chicken dinner for me in the business section of Savers when this book was supposed to have been, because this is not business, this is education, because that's where I got this brain book from. In the middle of the business section, there it was waiting for me. And so negative self-talk, not going to happen, and cognitive restructuring and all of those things, that is what I was doing. And lo and behold, I now have 60 years worth of people doing research and how they became Nobel Prize winners. So that was awesome for me. So growth-oriented self-talk, rewiring your beliefs and supports your cognitive restructuring. And all this time, didn't know how it was going to be done. And now you only got to give me a little bit. I'm like a mouse. And my head gets through on the information, I'm in. So that was amazing. And that's cognitive restructuring at its finest. Next is cognitive flexibility drills. So switching tasks, and we know that that's the Pomodoro effect, where for 10 to 25 minutes, you're doing something and you go take a break. So you read for 10 to 25 minutes, and then you go have a snack. You might exercise, you might clean up something, and then you come back, because that's going to strengthen the executive function, and switching is going to have you have adaptive control. And so the brain regions that you'll be using for that are the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the parietal lobe, and the basal ganglia. Next is novelty exposure. I don't really like novelty because I think about that's Thor Spencer's, but it's really learning new skills and new languages. And so because I am studying neuroscience now, I am studying a new skill. And what I'm using is the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, and the cerebellum. And this promotes, and Regina, you're probably going to like this word, but you already know what it is to a certain extent, synaptogenesis and neuroplasticity. And synaptogenesis is this. It's from the Greek synaptine, and that means to join together. And basically what it is the formation of synapses, which are connections of neurons where they communicate with each other. They open up and a receptor goes in and they receive neurotransmitters. And that is the foundation for how you create synaptic connections and then how you create the neural pathways that you have. And so tomorrow we are going to be talking about synaptogenesis for Wired Wednesday and synapses and all of that, the wire fire of it, because I figured that would be perfect for Wired Wednesday. But that's what's happening for there. Next is the interlead. Wait a minute. What is that? Oh, yeah, the interlead learning. So mixing topics and tasks. And what happens is the prefrontal cortex, the basal ganglia, and the hippocampus are used, and it increases retrieval, strength, and flexibility thinking. That's what happens. And so now, like I said, if you go back to October versus now, know so much more about the brain. Is amazing because I've been studying it for the last 10 months straight. Next is physical exercise, especially aerobic exercise. Hippocampus, cerebellum, and the prefrontal cortex are being used. It boosts neurogenesis and it boosts the BDNF and your cognitive flexibility. And we know that the BDNF is the brain-derived neurotropic factor, and it's the protein in the brain and the spinal cord, and it's used to help transform synaptic activity into long-term memories, essential for learning and memories. And that's why you want to do it. That's why every time you see somebody talking about the brain, they tell you exercise because you're going to release some BDNF and boost your BDNF and all of that. But they didn't really explain how important it is in the overall functionality of everything that you do. And then visual mapping. So having mind maps and diagrams, that's in your right parietal lobe and your prefrontal cortex. And it enhances your spatial integration and your abstract reasoning. And so it allows you to be creative and it allows you to map things out differently. So I see it very clearly, God willing, how this is actually going to happen over time. So the neuroscience insights are this: neural construction zones thrive on challenge, novelty, reflections, and feedback. These activities stimulate neuroplasticity and allow the brain to rewire itself for resilience, skill, and adaptability. What questions do you have as I come around third and talk about the benefits? If it's clear, say it's clear. If it's not, you need me to review something, I shall, or we will move forward. Lola says it's clear. Definitely thirsty. Okay. Next, what are the brain benefits and the hemisphere benefits? No question. Processing so much this morning. Okay. Well, that's good. You're at a buffet. I am at a brain buffet today. Yes. What are you having? Oh, I'm having everything, darling. Everything to build this construction zone. I am under construction. Neuro construction. Oh, I see you building your house. I'm building my brain, baby. Yes. Yes. 860 trillion synaptic connections. Yes. I am going to summarize everything. Yes, ma'am. Everybody's like, cognitive overload, time out, doc, cognitive overload. It's all good. Gonna bring it all around through. Gonna put a nice little brain bow on it. Okay. So what are the brain benefits and hemisphere benefits of neural construction zones? Neural construction zones are areas of the brain undergoing rewiring, learning growth, especially in the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the ACC, and the basal ganglia. Engaging in these zones produces powerful brain-wide. I love that word, brain-wide. Let me type that down. Write that down. That's a great word, beautiful word. And hemisphere-specific benefits that support lifelong adaptability and cognitive health. That's why you're always under construction. So the brain benefits of neural construction zones. Enhanced neuroplasticity. So you're going to strengthen your synaptic connections and promotes neurogenesis in the hippocampus, and that is where long-term memory and learning resides. So this is going to be muy beautiful. Yes, muy bueno, muy magnifique. Improved executive functions. We always want our work and memory to be improved on the daily basis, and so the construction helps with that. It boosts your planning, focus, and decision-making via the prefrontal cortex. Greater cognitive flexibility. We know that that is part of the executive function, along with inhibition control and your working memory. And it increases the ability to switch perspectives and adapt through your ACC and your parietal regions. Stronger emotional regulations. We're going to sit that toddler down in the damn time out and say, shut up, here go your binky, take a damn nap. Engages in your ventral medial prefrontal cortex and your insula to manage stress and impulses. Next is better memory and learning. So it stimulates hippocampus for encoding, storage, and integration of new knowledge. As I mentioned, 12 of my post-its were discarded because all that information I am well aware of now. Reduced mental rigidity. That means you're going to weaken that overactive habit loops from the basal ganglia. We always did it like this. Don't nobody need no Apple Pay. Recently we saw somebody writing a check at the grocery store. I didn't even know you could still accept the check. Remember, you used to have to push it through the thing and all of that. I was like, a check? What the hell? Who writing a check at the grocery store? What is this, 1977? So yeah, some of those habits just got to go away. Higher resilience and under uncertainty. I am in my gray area. Like Pablo Picasso, my favorite painter. When I was in Amsterdam, they had an exhibit at one of the art museums, and they had a lot of his blue phase, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been impacted by art in my life, and I was just standing there like, I get this. I totally get this. So he was in his blue phase. I'm in my gray phase right now. Activates construction zones during ambiguity, building tolerance and adaptability. And we talked about that yesterday. So you're going to have it. It's going to be great. And now you know, so just be there as long as it takes. And then finally, increase creativity and insight. And so cross-hemispheric integration fosters abstract and innovative thinking. And so for when we came on YouTube on January 19th, the brain background was the red and white brain background. And then there was a shift. And with that shift, I started having different brain backgrounds. And then I shifted to chat, and now I can create all kind of backgrounds for everything that I'm actually talking about. And that's that innovative thinking, so you can see it. And now, starting on August 13th, the Real Leader Brain Instagram page will be up. And this information that's featured here will be featured there. And I'm additionally switching my blog over for the people who need to read it instead of just seeing it. That's getting ready to take place on August 13th as well. The reason why it's August 13th is that's my 12th year of being solo dolo. So again, cross-hemispheric integration fosters abstract and innovative thinking. Plus, because my doggone working memory is working overtime, it's just really firing, wire fire. Next, the hemisphere benefits of neural construction zones. So basically, on the left side, you have improved logical reasoning, enhanced language sequencing and planning, stronger inner dialogue for growth-oriented self-talk, analytical memory retention, facts and steps, memorizing. I know a lot of facts about the brain now, and task initiation and focus on goals. On the right hemisphere, you have strengthened pattern recognition, boosted creativity and visual spatial skills, increased Enola. That's why you can keep saying, oh, it's on that side of town, but no, that's that area, that's Springbound area, because that's what's actually happening for you is your visual spatial skills. So you basically have a map of Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas in your head. Increased capacity of emotional awareness and intuition, narrative memory and meaning making, and then broad attention and big picture thinking. So in summary, the brain-based summary is this: neural construction zones activate a full brain upgrade. So you know on your phone how they alert you and say, we're getting ready to give you a software update. Basically, it's renovation and remodeling. You're going to gut the house and start from the doggone mud seal, the beams and studs and the wooden framing, and go up. And you're combining the left hemisphere logic, the right hemisphere creativity, and deep emotional and executive circuits, leading to long-term growth, flexibility, and self-directed transformation. So what does all of this mean? As Nola and Regina said, this is a lot. It's scary, processing a lot of information. Give me one moment so I can get to the mind wandering and have that up. So here is what's taking place, ladies and gentlemen. Your brain always needs to be under construction. It's basically how you grow. It's how you take the 74 principles of real leadership and apply them. We know that be the best is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, as well as set and maintain high standards, go above and beyond, challenge yourself, grow continually, provide coaching, be coachable, lead by example, learn to follow, solicit feedback. When your brain is under construction, you are going to be able to do all of those things because you are constantly in a gray area. So you are improving and adapting so that that cognitive flexibility and that executive function of the brain has something to do. So it's like, oh, okay, no, we got to change. Okay, cool. Now I got to change the brain background. All right, now I got notes. I changed the way I do my notes. Now I have my tablet. Now we have Wire Wednesday. We have Thinking Thursday. I started using the 74 principles of real leadership to tell me, show me, let me. So all of these amazing things that you experience both in challenges and during lives, the content that you see from me is the result of being under neural construction zones. So instead of sitting in a house that you built 1972, you ain't updated the copper pipes, you still got asbestos in there and lead paint on the walls. That is what's happening to people with a fixed mindset. Over here, we got solar panels, Alexa, we're telling Alexa what to do. Everything is electronic. It works. We have a whole people that come in and help with the landscape. It's just a beautiful experience, and we're constantly updating, constantly growing and changing and developing. So it's always under construction. And I mentioned this before, in 2016 on the ballot in the state of Nevada, we had what was called the Fuel Revenue Index tax. It was 25 cents per household every day at the pump. Basically, we needed to make our streets bigger, better, and wider. So we had, they called it, when it was at CES, we said we have smart cars and dumb roads. And so there's been this expansion since 2017. And if you moved here, you're like, damn, everything is under construction. Everything is under construction. And it is because we have 115 people moving here a day. So the roads are expanding. The highways are becoming more complex. But they took that tax money and actually did what they said they were going to do. And we are constantly under construction, but it's for the better fluidity of traffic. Jones was a point where it was broken off. We couldn't get to the other side of 215. Now that actually works. It makes it simpler for us to get to those appointments over there. So what's happening is, think of all these new neural pathways that you are going to be able to create. That's why we're going to be talking about synaptic connections and neurogenesis and neural pathways tomorrow, so that you get it. And basically what's happening is you get to use all of the brain regions that I mentioned today and be under construction. And so there will be areas. I know everything there is about leadership, and I said this yesterday, business, global economy, all of those things. But I was getting stagnant. And that's why I came out as a nerd last year and started studying the brain, because the last thing you want to do is get stuck in a rut. And because of the concepts of neural construction, now you don't ever, ever, ever have to be stuck. And the beauty of it is that you don't need a host. Unaccountable people always come over here at the beginning of the live talking shit, starting shit, because they need that bump, that hit, that dopamine boost. And if I don't give it to them, they just go to the next live until they get it. They need external stimuli because of their unwillingness to tell the toddlers, shut the fuck up and sit your ass down and take a nap. So their toddlers are running their brain. Over here, our prefrontal cortex is running the show. And that's why you get to grow and develop exponentially, because you're okay with looking like a novice. You're okay with mispronouncing adenosine. And I was saying pomodoro instead of I was saying pomo instead of pomo. So pomodoro technique, but I was still saying it. And now I know what it is. And I was doing it. I called it productive procrastination until I realized it was actually a term for it. So basically what I'm saying is, fixed mindset, don't want to be under construction. Just think of two toddlers running a brain, running the household. Over here, the toddler's asleep. The toddlers need 10 hours of sleep and rest. You hand them their food. If they're still in diapers, you change their diapers. You still got to give them a bath. They're in the bathtub playing with the letters, got their little cape on, their tutus and Spider-Man and all of that. And they're content. You regulate the toddlers, but you are running the show. And so you are constantly under construction, because if not, that working memory is going to stop working. You're going to get stuck. You're going to have an atrophied brain. And then you're going to be that old person talking about where is the elevator operator and where is the rotary phone. That's what's going to happen. You still going to be looking for doggone Kresge's and Woolworths and the 5 and dime instead of going online to get whatever it is that you need. So please, Regina and Nola, let me know if it is clear to you now. If not, I can explain further. Otherwise, I will go to the brain bit, and then we will answer our 2 questions and proceed with the rest of our day. And plus, I like the construction for the people that keep trying to steal my shit. Some point it's gonna be too advanced. I'm like, we can't say and do all that. Now we're gonna go on take somebody else's stuff. Go ahead and take bad Dr. Doc. That's that 2% petty that I reserve. Yes. And Regina, if you're typing, can you let me know? Let me know. I'll go over my notes. My brain is under construction. Okay, got it. Roger that. I honestly and truly didn't think that this was going to have the impact that it's actually having. I thought it for me, neurologically, it felt like it was on par with the other one. So after you go over your notes, if you have any other questions, just go ahead and email me and I will clear up what is unclear. All right, the last thing for today before we get to our 2 questions is mind wandering. And I have been trying to describe this for a long time, and now I understand what it is. So definition of mind wandering is spontaneous shifting of attention away from a task or an external environment to internally generate thoughts, feelings, or memories. Often without conscious intention, it is a form of self-generated thought that occurs when the mind drifts from the present moment to unrelated topics. So here are the key characteristics. It's internally focused. Thoughts may be about the past, the future, or imagined scenarios. So imagine you're washing the dishes, and next thing you know, you start thinking about something that happened in 7th grade. Why? Why would you be thinking about something that I'm 52? You know, 7th grade was so damn long ago. This shit was 40 years ago. So it was 39 years ago. Or you start basically thinking, oh my God, what if this happens? Or this should this. But what if I did? And not in an imagined way so that you can actually do something about it, but just these scenarios that just show up in your head. That's what's happening. It's internal focus. Or it's unintentional. So it often happens without your awareness. You could just be driving and the next thing you know, your mind is wandering because the light is taking too long. It could be task unrelated. So this content is not relevant to the current activity. Again, you are washing the dishes and then something about Christmas decoration shows up and we're in the middle of July. Not task unrelated. Oh, you know what? I got to take the Christmas decorations down. For what? It's July. Are you having Christmas in July? And then next is common and low demand tasks. So more likely when doing something repetitive or boring. So if you're making up your bed, you're doing laundry, you're cutting grass, you're driving to the same job, that's when your mind starts to wander. Now, the neuroscience insight is this. Mind wandering is associated with the activation of the default mode network. And that's the brain work, and it includes these following 4 brain regions. The medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, the angular gyrus, and the hippocampus. And these regions are involved in self-referential thinking, memory, and future planning. So what happens when you're mind wandering is you're sitting there washing the dishes, making up your bed, brushing your wig, you might even be polishing your nails, whatever it is, your brain starts to wander. And now you are worst case scenario, best case scenario about something that is never going to happen. And so these brain regions are enacted because they're going, oh, you're in your default mode network. So instead of you doing self-referential thinking or working on your memory or future planning, you're doing this. So in order for you to stop mind wandering in your default mode network, the first thing you need to do is be where your feet are. So you got to look down at your feet. So your feet aren't in the past and your feet aren't in the future. Your feet are in the task that you are currently doing. So that's number 1. Now, when you're in your default mode network, that's your self-referential time. You are reflecting. You are taking things from memory. So in my case, I'm talking about the lives from October. And I have things, for example, I used make acronyms on the previous live. So I'm going to say, oh, we need to start doing that again. So I kept all my post-its from that, and now I have them so that I won't repeat the word. That's number 1. But now I've taken these and I started using these in my broadcast channel on Instagram. So I went back into my memory, got something that I need, and for future planning. So now I know I'm going to be using these in my broadcast channel. I know that we on Thinking Thursday use acronyms now because of the neurological benefits of it. That is what needs to take place when you are in your default mode network. So you're using those brain regions for, let me think about this. I needed to start back exercising again because even when we're at appointments, I'm not doing enough physical activity. So I had to incorporate actual calisthenics back into my days. So I'm thinking and I'm like, stuff is getting a little loose and I'm feeling a little lethargic. So I need to start exercising. And I remember all of my exercises. I still have my workout clothes and exercise equipment. And now I future plan that I'm going to work out every other day. And then on August 13th, I'm going to download the app that we used to use, Memory Again, for me to start doing those aerobic and calisthenic activities. So what questions do you have about mind wandering? It happens again when it's internally focused, you're concerned about the past, the future, or an imagined scenario. It just shows up automatically and it's unrelated to the thing that you're doing. And it's most likely happening when you're doing routine tasks. So in those moments, be where your feet are and literally say, I'm washing dishes. Pay attention to the dishes. And when you're in your default mode network, brushing your teeth is another task that happens and you start mind wandering. Be where your feet are, bring yourself back, floss, and get out of there. And then when you have your personal time, you are actually thinking memories, bringing them back up, and then future planning. That's how that works. What questions do you have about mind wandering? I did not mean to exit out of that. Yes, and Nola does that as well. Nola does that as well. Okay, so in summary, when you are by yourself, you are in your default mode network. And what happens is your mind will naturally wander. That means you go and start daydreaming, you start thinking about other things unrelated to what it is that you're doing. The goal in that default mode network is for it to be productive. So when you are by yourself, you have to wire your brain to say, I'm washing dishes, I'm going to wash dishes. I'm making up my bed, I'm going to be present while I'm making up my bed. Because what happens is those thoughts show up and you're just ruminating. If you think about you're making up your bed and you start thinking about your 5th grade science project, and then you stop. There is nothing that you can do with that information. But if, like I use myself, if I'm in my default mode network and I'm saying, how do I make the content that I'm presenting on the daily basis better? Then I go back to one of my notebooks and I go, oh, I used to use acronyms. Let me start adding that to Cognitive Thursday. Not only that, but I want the people in my broadcast channels on Instagram to start thinking too. Let me use those acronyms for that. So the brain, those regions of the brain will just go with what you're thinking. So you need to wire it so that when you are by yourself, it's still productive time. And when you are doing routine tasks, you are focused on the routine task. That means that you are present. So you're wiring your brain to say, I'm washing the dishes. Let me pay attention to washing the dishes. I'm cutting the grass. Let me pay attention to cutting the grass. So it's don't have your mind wandering, because if the mind wanders, that was wasted mental capacity. So you want to prune the mind wandering neural pathways and create neural pathways that will be productive, whether you're doing routine tasks or you are literally in default mode network. So in that instance, if you're thinking about your washing dishes and you're thinking about your 5th grade science project, self-reflection time means that you can go over, well, what did I do yesterday? What do I need to do today? What do I need to do to improve my business? That's the actual reflection that needs to be taking place during that time. So a memory can show up, the memory of me doing acronyms. That's a good memory. Me remembering the 7th grade science project is no bueno. Now, if I remember my 8th grade science project, it was on the brain. So that's something relevant that I can use. So the hippocampus will just start throwing shit out there, especially if you just start making up scenarios. Like, I believe, you know what? Well, I wonder what would happen if I became an R&B singer right now. The fuck? No. That ain't never gonna happen. Like R&B singer, you go do something international, global, and worldwide, but it ain't gonna be, hey baby, my baby done left me. No, that's more like blues, but that's not what's gonna happen. So you are wiring the default mode network to not, you're pruning the mind wandering, and you're using those brain regions for self-reflection, memory, and future planning. And we can talk about this more after the live. I can show you more afterwards. Okay, last two questions for today are, what did you learn today, and what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn today, and what did you learn about your amazing self? And I learned that when the sun comes up, Donna is burning up. Noah said, so I learned about myself. Instead of daydreaming, I need to reflect. Yes, ma'am. And then when I'm doing something, stay focused on what I'm doing to get it done. Yes, I learned your brain needs to always be under construction. Yes, ma'am. That is correctamundo. Y'all learn that soon as you think you got it all. Here come Dr. Donna with some new shit. Like, I thought I had this. And here this lady go with what? Blame it on chat. Blame it on chat. Instead of the alcohol. That might be a reflection. Reflections of the way life used to be. Regina, I learned about neural construction zones. Didn't know this was a thing. Appreciate learning this information and the 4 kinds of neuroplasticity. Yes, which we will be discussing por la mañana with that wire and that fire. Instead of that fire and desire, we got that wire and that fire. Lola said, I learned now why I turn the music on when I'm about to do things or when I'm about to make things happen. Yes. And people do that. At appointments, they ask us, do we want music on? And we're like, no, we're good. But yes, that's why that is taking place. Anything else before we go? I learned that the brain is an amazing organ, and the more you learn about it, the more there is to learn about it. I also learned that when you're actually focused on the thing that you came here to do, as the Science of Getting Rich says, the supply is unlimited. I got the book on the neuroscience, the Nobel Prize winners yesterday. And I was in there looking to finish out the books for 11. And here I am now getting the information that I've been in the back of my mind. I'm like, how am I going to find this out? This isn't something that's just readily available with actual research. And there it was. Right there in the business section instead of in the education section. Because I definitely would. I mean, Savers is not organized like the library or bookstore. It is by category, but then after that, you get what you get. It's just think it's all donations. So, Regina, Lola, did you have anything else before we head out? I don't want. There we go, Regina. For myself, I have experienced mind wandering again. Didn't know there was a word to describe this. I didn't either. I just knew it was happening. And I have a deeper appreciation for the need to stay present when doing ordinary tasks and to be more efficient. Yes, and that I'm glad you brought that up, Regina, because you will be more efficient. Because you will definitely be paying attention to it. And boom, bada bing, bada boom. it will be done. And then you can move on to other, and I see your note, Lola, other grand things. So I will close with this. Your brain is the most valuable organ in your body. Please use it. It is the most valuable organ and resource in your body. And because of that, you can do amazing things. You just have to simply say, how do I wire these synaptic connections so I can get this thing done? What regions of my brain do I need to use to get this done? And the final thing that I will say is, as I added why people avoid doing the thing that will benefit their brain, notice that it keeps being the amygdala, the two toddlers, the left and right, the two toddlers. The two toddlers are saying no, and they're sending all kind of fear messages everywhere else because they don't want to change. And you just have to understand that initially they were there to tell us there's a saber-toothed tiger around those three trees on the right next to that cave. Whatever is taking place, it's a threat, it's a threat, it's a threat. And that's their job, to be emotional and then say, hey, this is what's happening, this is what we're feeling, along with the ACC and the Insula. And then it's the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex job to say, okay, is this memory true? Is this fake? Is this a false positive? Is this real? And then the prefrontal cortex assesses all that information and says, we got to grow, we got to change. So because of the avoidance of thousands of years, 200,000 years or more of the avoidance of people and the brain, this is how we got here. Almost 6 billion adults being personally unaccountable. And what came to me this morning as I was making my snack is this. People like working on simple shit and make it seem like it's grand. So the neuroscientists keep looking at the diseased brain, and that's important, but there are more people without a diseased brain than there are with people with a diseased brain. That's number one. Psychiatrists and psychologists like working with people who have mental illness and schizophrenia and all these other things because that's easier to do. So think of it this way. People love doing charitable things. Oh, we're about backpacks for kids, back to school supplies, shit getting ready to be everywhere. People taking photos. We donated 15 backpacks and some sneakers and some clothes, some pencils and some pens. But ain't nobody gonna sit down and help these kids read shit. But Khan Academy is. And dang it, I forgot it. Conmigo. Hopefully that gets into more schools. So that makes people feel good. The psychiatrists like sitting there with the crazy people and everything else. Yeah, so how to make you feel? Because now they have superiority complex. But nobody, to my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, hey, tell me and I will say I'm wrong. Nobody is saying, how do we make the best human being? Because that's hard. Because you got to be under construction in order to make a better human being. You got to know the difference between neurogenesis and neuroplasticity 10 months later. And that's the hard part, because your amygdala is stopping you from growing. Your amygdala is stopping you. Well, what if I look stupid in front of my peers? Well, no, research isn't going to be funded for that. So we got to go. So the people responsible for telling us how the brain functions and how to use it got hijacked amygdalas. And that's why we're all stuck. That's why we didn't know. For 10 months, I didn't know that it was 2 amygdalas. Been researching. And then because I said, how much does the amygdala weigh? Boom. Here comes this information showing up. So they too are afraid. They are afraid too because, ooh, the brain is complicated and, ooh, people are complicated and, ooh, people pop off and act like a damn fool. So how are we going to get this done? That's why I'm saying I'm getting a Nobel Prize in a new category. I'm creating it. Because every day you get on this live and you learn something else about your brain that you didn't know. Because I'm under construction too. I'm willing to be under construction in full-on globalness of all that is taking place in the world, because somebody got to be the first through the door and take the shot in the chest. Let it be me. I done did it many a time. That's what's actually taking place. That's why everything is connected to the brain. Everything is connected. That's why you can't get a brain transplant, because one wrong miss with a nerve ending, you're going to mess somebody up. That's why it hasn't happened yet. So we as the adult global population have to start being under construction. We have to start being under construction. Yes, that's what it came to me this morning when I was doing what? I was in my default mode network time making my snack. So I was reflecting on what I'm actually doing. I was reflecting. So that is no mind wandering. Doing a routine task. It takes me 10 minutes every morning to make my snack. And it came to me because I was doing self-reflection and I was using my memory and future planning. That is how you ensure that you have no more mind wandering. Am I there yet? No, because I just found out about mind wandering this week. But I'm already implemented. I'm wiring and firing already. That neural pathway gonna be solid as a rock. But that's what's taking place because I've been just bumfuzzled. I'm like, why can't we get this information? They're studying the brain. They've been at this shit for hundreds of years. Golgi and Cahal did staining and synaptic connections over 100 years ago. Why the fuck ain't we wiring and firing in elementary school? No, what do? We took that, and this is one more thing. So we took the information. AI came from doing research way back in 2006. They were mimicking the brain on purpose so that they could, if they could find out the method. So what happened was they did research. They were able to find out the wire and fire mechanisms of the milliseconds of it firing. They turned that into a mathematical equation, and that's how you ended up with AI. And now everybody is upset. So instead of having the humans do it, it was simpler to get a computer to do it. That's why AI could do so much. And it's being sold as, oh, this is going to do faster, it's going to be better. And everybody's like, oh my God, AI is taking it. But they literally had to research the brain to understand in lab rats and everything else to understand how it even happened so they could mimic it and then reproduce it. And that's why sometimes AI glitches, is because it can't do it naturally. But it was simpler to create AI than to actually have the human beings do it. That's how much the avoidance is there. That's how much it is there. So don't get me wrong. I love chat. I pay my little $20 a month. Got it. Phenomenal. But that's not going to replace what Dr. Donna is connecting. Because I'm connecting more than chat is connecting. Because of all these 52 years and all this experience that I have, I already got those neurons and those neural pathways wiring and firing. But that's the issue. So I'm not mad at them. That's why I'm saying, oh, I'm getting the Nobel Prize. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Create a new category. That's what's going to happen. Because I actually did change humanity. I actually did it. And I'm not a neuroscientist. But sometimes you need somebody outside the industry to come in and disrupt that motherfucker. That's why we got touch screens. That's why we got streaming and everything else. Because somebody said, why is this? So solve a problem that nobody else is willing to solve. And do it in a way that nobody else is willing to do it. Hence, baddest mofo walking the face of planet Earth. It is I, Dr. Donna. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what's happening. They have hijacked amygdalas too. What did somebody say? Okay. Got somebody that needs to be report you. Did we report you? Harassment. There we go. Put you in the porn category. So your whole account. Got it. So your whole channel about to get taken away from you, bro. All right. Okay. This message is held for review. Good. Get them out of here. Sicko. Okay. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have anything else for me, what a revelation it is. And so I will continue to be in my gray phase. Yes, I will. Might even get a gray t-shirt and say I'm in my gray phase, my gray area, under construction or something to that effect. I was looking for a new t-shirt to get made. Anyway, well, I'll figure it out. So that's what's taking place. So every day that you come here and you learn more about your brain, you are putting the toddlers to sleep. You are giving them their binky, changing them and putting them in their little beds, little toddler beds, and saying, sit down, be humble. We got this. We the grown folks, we the adults in this situation. And that is what is actually taking place. So now, had I not learned about the gray area, just me and chat talking in my default mode network, my mind wasn't wandering. And now I have all this new information. So mind wandering, no braino. Don't do that. Use your default mode network for what it was designed to do. Because me making my snack this morning gave me that amazing revelation of what's actually taking place. That's all that I have for you today. Give yourself a pat on the back and a round of applause for getting through what I thought was going to be a simple live, but apparently not so much. But hey, it is what it is. We all under construction. That's the takeaway, and no more mind wandering. God willing, higher power in the universe. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, safe space for everybody that's learning how to use their brain. The rest of you get what you get. Different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a brain-tastic day. Take care.